Hello, Hospice Savannah. I'm Dr. Cameron Muir, the Chief Medical and Innovation Officer at the National Partnership for Healthcare and Hospice Innovation, or NPHI. And we're going to focus right now on advanced illness caring, what I like to call sort of a reboot of our mind and space as we think about the privilege and the opportunity to care. And try to remember why you went into healthcare. Usually there was a strong motivation, and there was an inspiration, or maybe a reaction to something that wasn't as good as you thought it should be, and you were like, I want to make a difference. So why did you go into healthcare? Take another deep breath and think about that as a culture of caring, that passion, that motivation to get out of bed each morning and come serve here at Hospice Savannah. So part of what I find helpful to think about this in terms of really an opportunity to care. So often over the course of time we get tired, we get fatigued, and we see another person to serve as more work as opposed to an opportunity to care. Most importantly, make it personal. I always find it helpful. One of my former colleagues, a great nurse that I worked with, said, what would you do if it was your mom? How would you approach this person if it was your mom? That really powerfully, for me at least, personalizes it, makes it something that I really want us to focus on, because this is my mom and she deserves the absolute best. So another quote that I love that goes along with that is, if you go the extra mile, it's never crowded. And so if it were your mom, I think she'd want you to go the extra mile. And you'll find that it's not that crowded except with your colleagues from Hospice Savannah, because you all are all going the extra mile. Think about the spectrum between caring and being an insurance company. Insurance companies about eligibility, and I feel particularly in the admissions process, I think we get wrapped up around this, where we think about it from, oh my goodness, I'm meeting Mrs. Jones, and I'm not thinking about her as a person. I'm thinking about her as, oh, I got to document the eligibility, we're going to get audited, we're going to get reviewed, and I got to have. And then what that's effectively done is meant that instead of being a nurse or a social worker or a home health aide or a chaplain or a doctor or whatever, an NP, whatever your role might be, instead of caring from the perspective of, I went to some sort of training to be able to bring care, you end up actually doing the job of the insurance company, and you end up answering all the questions that they want answered first, and forget about the fact that this is really a human being and your privilege first is to care. The third point in making it personal is to really think about and kind of simplify and identify the 3 steps in the referral process. Only 3 steps. Sometimes I think we get it way more complicated than it needs to be. And I like to begin by talking about and thinking about these steps. They begin with the patient story. Because first and foremost, you need a notice of election, the NOE. If they sign the notice of election, they have elected that benefit. That's their choice, and it's our job to then back them up. The second thing in that patient story is somebody generally was providing care to them fairly recently, whether it's a hospitalist in the hospital or a physician in the nursing home or a team in an oncology clinic. And that referring provider certification, verbal to start, and you just have to get it documented in writing before you can bill, but that's a technical issue. You'll get to that. First and foremost, if someone phoned in the referral and the beneficiary desires our services, those are the 2 things that are necessary today to start care. In fact, the verbal cert from the referring physician technically has 48 hours according to Medicare. So really the notice of election, the patient's story, and their consent for services is the start of care. You then have 48 hours to get that confirmation from the referring provider, and then to collaborate with the hospice physician to be able to get that HMD certification. Those are the 3 steps. It's only 3. We tend to complicate it with all sorts of other things that we've learned or been burned by in the past. Those are all ancillary. Fundamentally, if the person wants the benefit of the benefit, give them the benefit. Someone calls, and it's not usually the case that they're like, well, I was thumbing through the phone book and I thought, maybe I'll call hospice today. No, usually there was a really intense conversation that just happened before that phone call or before that communication to Hospice Savannah. Often it's a difficult conversation with a provider team about a disease that's gotten worse or not getting better, not responding. Or it's a daughter that's really had a hard time taking care of all the logistics and issues in the care of their loved one. Or the son. Interestingly enough, market data shows that it's the adult child that often is making the majority of the decisions for the frail elder, the object of our affection. So you got to respond with a sense of urgency like a fire alarm bell. This intense conversation needs to then be surrounded by Hospice Savannah bubble wrap. Come around each of these patients and their loved ones with some nice, soft, encouraging, loving support, and listen for what it is that they're needing. And then we used to teach this like a realtor who listens to what you're looking for in the house, and then you're surveying the inventory of available houses and say, these are the ones that I think you might really benefit from or might really like. So as you're listening to the needs of the patient and their loved ones, in your mind you're thinking about, well, it's a little different than what I thought, but man, could we really help that daughter with some support? Boy, could we really help them with a home safety assessment? Boy, could we really help them with some symptom management and help with rest at night so the daughter can get some sleep during the day? And you just listen for all these different needs that they might have and think about the amazing IDG at Hospice Savannah that's there to then provide incredible support to that person and their family as soon as you get them started care. I worked with one of the medical directors at CAHABA at the time, which was one of the fiscal intermediaries. There are only 3 in the United States that review eligibility on behalf of Medicare for hospice. And Dr. Jack Olds taught me the following sentence, which I've taken with me everywhere. He said, hospice is underutilized and often way late in the course of an illness. So, he said the way he thinks about it, and he literally did this with his hands, he says, wide front open access with a tight back-ended review. Wide front open access at the front end. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Give them the benefit. Give them the benefit rather than the doubt. And advocate for the grays. That's my own take on this, sorry. Now, Jack Old said wide front open access with a tight back-ended review. And then the culture we really adopted was, if you're not sure, shouldn't you err on the side of providing care? Rather than being unsure about whether someone's eligible and saying, well, you know, hold over there in the penalty box until we can get this on further review and figure out whether they're eligible. In fact, you're actually getting paid on a daily basis to do the important work of both initially symptom management and other support for the family, but also gathering additional medical information to support ongoing eligibility, which then can be reviewed at the upcoming IDG. So it's a process rather than a moment. The moment starts with the referral and a start of care, the notice of election, and then you have some time between that moment and the IDG, particularly the first or second IDG, to gather additional supporting information while you're caring. While you're caring. Caring first, insurance company second. Necessary, but not the number one thing. So wide front open access with tight back-ended review, advocate for the grays, and then really think about questions rather than assumptions. Try to understand what that family's been going through. Try to understand what you think that might be beneficial from the IDG. Put yourself in the learning mode. Help me to understand is one of my most favorite phrases. Help me to understand. It level sets the whole room. And as a physician coming into the room, one of the most important things for me to do to help a family to feel comfortable sharing what's going on for them, unloading the burden that they've been dealing with, is to humble myself in front of them to say, help me to understand. The opportunity to care allows you to then bring the benefits. And the benefits are a full team of caring professionals. There are very few health insurance products in the world that take care of anybody other than the patient, and sometimes they don't even do a whole lot of that. But this is a full team of caring professionals to take care of the whole patient and their family and all the people that matter to them. 2, expertise in in-home care. You all have been doing this more than anybody else probably in the area for longer than most people in any area. You have expertise in care in the home. And if there's anything that the COVID pandemic taught us, it's that the home is the safest place to care for a frail elder or someone with a serious illness. And you have expertise in doing this. I always call it the Velcro care plan. What does it take to keep people safe and comfortable at home so that they're not feeling that they need to bounce back and go anywhere else like the emergency room or the hospital? That's high value care. And it's full support for the family as well, as I mentioned. And then 100% covered by insurance. No insurance, no co-insurance, no deductible with the typical hospice benefit from Medicare. Part B is all 20% co-insurance, and other insurance is sometimes more. With the hospice benefit, it's 100% covered. So let's just recap. You got a full team of caring professionals taking care of the whole family with expertise in keeping people where they want to be, safe and comfortable at home, and it's 100% covered by insurance. Seriously, what's not to like? And if you approach with an opportunity to care, recognize these incredible benefits of the hospice services that you all have the privilege to deliver to families day in and day out. Unbelievable. Advocate for the grays, and then work every single one of the cases that are not taken under care, the NTUCs not taken under care. Work them, because until you get them safely and securely in Hospice Savannah care, they're flopping in the breeze out there without a whole lot of love and support in our crazy healthcare world. If you're questioning whether or not someone's going to benefit from hospice care, please always call the medical director for any potential non-admit or question around eligibility. This is a team sport, hospice care, and your medical director is ultimately the one who has to sign on the dotted line that they believe that someone's eligible for hospice services. Call the medical director, pull in the team members, advocate for the grays, and then I always like to say, err on the side of taking care. Admit first, then collaborate with the full IDT so that you can both enhance quality care through the full team, as well as any necessary additional documentation that supports ongoing eligibility. Use the IDT. When you put all that together, you have an unbelievable privilege to bring great care to families in the greater Savannah area. It's a privilege to spend some time with you today, and I hope you always remember the privilege of caring and bring that in your heart everywhere you go.